Hi, everybody, and welcome to Friday Night Spotlight, brought to you by Jones Ford Buick GMC, your hometown dealer for more than 50 years. I am Brian Wright, and I am joined by Maria Vasquez. And we're still here talking about football, but we only have one Pinal County team remaining, and that team is Santa Cruz Valley. Now, before we get to talking about Santa Cruz, just to wrap up kind of last week, we had Casa Grande and Superior playing in games, and you had Superior playing for the 1A title. They were knocked off by Williams in a very physical game. They showed no quit in that game. Superior did, and that was the third straight year that they were in the championship game. So congrats to them. And then you had Casa Grande, who gave Desert Edge everything that they wanted in that game, in the 4A playoffs, and that was a game that I think not a lot of people gave Casa Grande a chance in, and they played really, really well, lost on a last-second field goal. So now let's get to the 2A playoffs, and that's going to be Santa Cruz facing off against the number one team in 2A, which is Round Valley. And, let's get right to it with Maria here, because Maria is our Santa Cruz expert, our Santa Cruz reporter. So first of all, Maria, tell everybody how Santa Cruz was able to dismantle Parker last week.
Well, it's the same thing with the Dust Devils as it has been all year. It's all about their running game, and their running game absolutely outplayed Parker, you could say, because these guys were just running through them, getting them tired, and at the end of the day, hey, that's all that matters, and Santa Cruz got the win.
And I know that, when Santa Cruz has played some of the top teams in 2A, and they've played a very tough schedule, they don't always get the big runs. And Coach Richard Davis has talked about being able to accept just getting, decent gains and moving the ball down the field. But you look against Round Valley and, against Parker last week, and Santa Cruz averaged 9.2 yards per carry as a team. So clearly they were able to move the ball really effectively against Parker. So that running game, Maria, what kind of stands out to you about why it's so effective?
Well, according to Davis, the thing about his offense is that there's a lot of misdirection going on. They might run the same play over and over again, but it's going to be a different view for the defense.
And looking at their opponent here, Round Valley, you won't really find anything individually about them online. That's really hard to find anywhere. But what I can say about Round Valley is these two teams did meet earlier in the season. It was very early in the season, September 6th, so you're talking about almost 2.5 months ago. And that game was in Egar, and Round Valley won that game handily, 48-13. But as I said, that was a long time ago, and I think that Richard Davis would probably tell you that they are a different team now than they were then, and you add that into the fact that this is a neutral site game that's going to be played in Gilbert. So, Maria, how do you think that those factors are going to affect the second meeting between these two teams?
Well, the thing about that first meeting is Davis said that it was kind of an uncharacteristic day for his team. They weren't fully focused, and during the actual game, they had a lot of miscues going on defense, and that's very uncharacteristic for these Dust Devils, who are outscoring opponents 453-187. But with that being said, these are the semifinals, and Santa Cruz is one of the last four teams remaining, and against those other three teams, they have struggled a little bit.
Yeah, now, obviously, to this point, Santa Cruz has looked excellent. I mean, you talk about their two playoff games, and they have really blown out both Chandler Prep and Parker. So, it doesn't get off to a much better start as far as the playoffs go for the Dust Devils. The one guy we always talk about that is kind of the leader of this team is Hunter Ogle, and he had another big game last week, rushing for 162 yards and 3 touchdowns against Parker, and he now has over 1,700 yards rushing and 21 touchdowns. So, I mean, just a fantastic season for Hunter Ogle. But Maria, there are some other guys on this team who have been big contributors. So tell us a little bit about those guys.
Well, we mentioned him last week, and Steve Calvin, he is his running game is pretty much identical to Hunter Ogle. He is going to power through you, but then you also have other guys like Ricardo Alanis, David Aviles, and Eric Padilla, who are much smaller, and they can kind of pick those holes that the offensive line gets for them, and they just sneak through there, and hey, good luck trying to catch them afterwards.
And, Maria mentioned their defense. Santa Cruz is only allowing a little over 15 points a game on defense this season. They have forced 28 turnovers. And, some of the guys who are their biggest players on offense are also their biggest players on defense. We start with Hunter Ogle, who's their leading tackler, and he has also recovered 5 fumbles. And then you got Steve Calvin. He leads the team with 4 interceptions, and Diego Castillo has been a big factor for them on defense as well. So, Maria, when it comes down to this matchup against Round Valley, what do you think the Dust Devils are going to need to do to get the victory?
This time around, I think and I expect that their defense is going to have a much better showing. During that previous game, Eric Padilla was their leading tackler in that game, and he only had 6 tackles. And typically, they're very good at putting pressure on the quarterback and getting those tackles for loss. They only had 1 in that game against Tanzer Gill, by Tanzer Gill. So I think, hey, it's semifinals. Yes, there's gonna be a little more added pressure, but I think the Dust Devils are gonna be better prepared this time around.
And I do expect this game to be a lot closer, clearly, than the first matchup. And, you look at Round Valley, and they played the toughest schedule in 2A. Now, Santa Cruz played a really tough schedule, too. But Round Valley does have, some good wins on their schedule. Not only did they beat Santa Cruz, but they beat Thatcher 27-6 on October 25th. Now, of course, Santa Cruz beat Thatcher as well. So I'm really expecting a very good game in this one. That does it for our breakdown on the 2A playoffs, and remember to visit PinalCentral.com for all of your playoff football action. And enjoy the game on Saturday.